in the news. Well, let's start at the end, shall we?
Okay, I can
Rockstar
do
has
that.
pulled Grand Theft Auto The Trilogy Definitive Edition from PC sales
But why?
because there were files that were unintentionally included, according to the update as of yesterday.
But what kind of files?
Well, it seems that some of the files that were at the root of the problem were probably GTA.exe and whatever else was compiled into it, because there are significant issues that are arising, and lots of footage of some of these issues has been spreading and creating what one might call a giga clusterfuck.
I can say that. I have a quick addendum. I can confirm that the reason why they pulled it down had nothing to do with what you're seeing with the Giga Clusterfuck. In fact, the GTA on the PC version was brought down for a multitude of reasons, such as the launcher doesn't work at all. They accidentally left most of the music they were supposed to cut in the game, as well as in the game's code, the notes from Rockstar North dating back to its development in the margins. And hot coffee.
And hot coffee. So hot coffee,
Was
of course,
bafflingly still in.
So, you know what I realized in some of this news coverage has been that we are now so far removed from hot coffee that a fuck ton of people don't know what hot coffee is because they're too young.
Oh, yeah. Well, you see, back in the day, a PS2 game called San Andreas came out, and you could use cheat codes to access a version of the game where you would date a girl and you would take the girl back to your house and you would fuck the girl. And I don't even remember if there was like implied nudity or real nudity or whatever.
On. It was close on.
They didn't and everybody fucking lost their shit, and the Rockstar got in trouble, and then the game's rating got changed while it had hot coffee in it.
Yeah.
And then it got re-released and it was a big thing. And I'm like, I've seen more graphic sex in the opening cutscene to Witcher 2.
So the thing that was the reason why it was such a clusterfuck was not just because it was like, oh, there was explicit material, but it was that like they attempted to hide that, but it was still in the game. It was still in the code. They just basically, like a modder could, hit it, basically unlock it with a single switch.
Yeah, what happened was that the PC version, you had to change a number from like 0 to 1 to turn it on. And then the shitstorm happened, and then it became discovered that there was a way to cheat code it out in the console versions.
Right. And then, that when I think of like the times when the dildo duty on Hitman was a thing, right? Find not Hitman, Deus Ex, excuse me, where it was go find every dildo and make sure it's removed from the game. And then there was one that was hidden behind a destructible wall in the sewers. It's like, yeah, so if you leave the asset in place and there is a way for someone to access it, then your game rating has to reflect that. That's essentially what the hot coffee controversy was about.
That being said, like the anger was the GTA game for kids has sex in it, to which anyone who had a brain went, this game is not for kids, you stupid motherfuckers.
But every kid is asking their mom for it, therefore it's for kids.
Yeah, because San Andreas owns.
Same thing for like Call of Duty and every other popular main thing. It's like, yeah, but if it gets popular enough, it's for kids because it's popular and kids want it, therefore it's for kids, despite the rating.
Also, the kids of today, they know what sex is. They probably think it's gross. I remember being a kid and being like, why do people do the kissy stuff? And then my mom was like, well, because they love each other. And I'm like, that's gross.
And also not true.
It was also not true. But, that's a white lie that's, appropriate to tell a child, that people have sex because they love each other.
All right. Well,
What are
anyway.
you going to tell? Well, sometimes people kiss because they want a nut. Like, come on.
Well,
That's
son,
not
sometimes
appropriate.
people need to get the poison out.
Oh, God. You've used that explicit phrase so many times that I thought it was a joke you made up, and now I'm starting to think that it's a real sentence made by somebody in your life.
It sure does exist outside of me. That being said, when this came around again in the modern era and it was in there, it's a hilarious throwback to the fuck up that is leaving in assets that are not supposed to be there. Then the music that was not licensed anymore just being like turned off. We have found out over the course of the last 2 decades that it is not enough to turn things off and go, there, it's done.
Hey, why do you think there's no PC network test of Elden Ring? Because most of the map
the
is
entire
probably
game,
literally still there in that network test.
Because they'll turn the demo into the entire full game.
Yeah.
You know?
You remember when the RE5 demo got data mined and turns out like most of the game is in that RE5 demo? Like, what are you doing? Why'd you leave all this boss data and all the audio files for every cutscene in the game in the demo?
The entire Cross Tekken DLC roster sitting right there on the disc when you buy it, but you're not allowed to have it till you buy the 2 kilobyte key.
Yeah, that's a year away.
Yep.
People point out the Yakuza 6 demo was accidentally the entirety of Yakuza 6, and they forgot to put the demo lock in, so it was just the whole game.
So this is a thing, and in this particular case, it's like, how could they have fucked that up by leaving that in? Well, maybe it's because their plates were full with everything else happening to this game.
So, before we get into this, I'm just going to lay a ground portion that explains a lot of what we're going to talk about. The developer called Grove Street Games that made this definitive edition of the GTA games, these are not the PS2 games. They're not the PC games. These are ports of the old, broken mobile games.
Is that the source?
They're the phone games. People can tell because the weightlifting game in San Andreas is the shitty iOS version and not the real PC or PS3 version.
I didn't catch that. Okay.
So these are not the PS2 redone. This is not the old PC versions redone. These are the 9-year-old iOS ports as the basis.
And that would explain why, like, some of the faces are just ghoulish, non-expressive, complete, like, ridiculously low-quality replacements for things that looked fine.
It was outsourced. A lot of the model work was outsourced to, I think, an Indian company that is I've never heard of them before. And judging by their work on this, they either had a very small deadline or not that much going on. But the textures is the absolute pinnacle because
why does this always happen?
They have,
like Silent Hill. Like, it's always the textures that are the telltale sign.
Well, I can tell you right now. It's very simple. In Silent Hill, Konami is bad about version control, and they just didn't have a final copy of the Gold Master of Silent Hill 2. They had somehow misplaced it. The only version they had was like 6 or 7 versions before final. And so when they sent it off to the port house had to first re-gold master it and fix bugs that were decades old on the PS2 architecture. And then there were textures that were just not good enough or whatever, and so the time available to them was like nothing. For GTA, the textures specifically, these are big games. Even though the textures are very low quality, and you even if you made lower quality textures just to smooth them over, like compared to the modern standards, there's still very big games that lost of textures. So they decided, you know, it'd be a great idea. Let's just throw every texture in the game into an AI upresing robot program that people use for stuff like the CG backgrounds in Final Fantasy VII or RE2, you know, the upscalers.
KOF 94 reboot.
Here's the problem. Rockstar games have a shit ton of text on buildings, and they're all puns. And the AI upscaler that's been trained on real life botches every single one. There is a guitar store that has it's like air guitar wank sessions or whatever. Every single word is a typo. Every single goddamn word is wrong.
I mean, yeah. So, this whole thing, like, this is a content creator's dream.
Oh, Joel has been having a time of it. Have you seen this shit?
Everyone has. It's like it's wild. Everyone has been going nuts. There is no better time than when something as high profile as this is such an absolute clusterfuck.
Joel Vinesauce, near and dear to my heart. I love you, Joel. Put out the absolute pinnacle of this game. It is a 12-second clip in which he decided it would be funny if he just drank soda until CJ got super fat.
Yes.
And then the game crashed, and then his save was ruined.
Yeah.
Screwed up the save file.
For drinking too much soda. Then just a series of tweets from just all around the internet. You got credits to Janky Nadelko with My Eyes Hurt Part 1, which is when you get to just see the rain effect, which, like, any random shit Snapchat filter looks infinitely better than what appears to just be white lines falling at an even pace that ignore the layer of water of the ocean that you're looking at.
Water and roads don't get affected by it, but everything else does.
And they're the brightest thing ever, and you can't really see beyond them. And then they're falling also at a rate where if you're in a helicopter and you descend fast enough, they stop falling and start moving upwards. It's the ugliest shit.
And also, it's a single image file, transparent image file that's being stapled to your character. So it stays completely uniform no matter how fast you go, like forward and backwards on a horizontal plane.
Yeah.
A shout out to Gigaboots. They did a huge stream of this game. They were about to pull into a goddamn garage only to find Tommy Vercetti T-posing stuck in the goddamn floor with a fucked up look on his face. Like, it is a trash fire. And I'm going to also shout out Mr. Fields Wild Ride, Twitter shitposter extraordinaire, for summing up the whole situation excellently, which is people are comparing this to the trash fire that was Cyberpunk, right? And Fields correctly points out that Cyberpunk promised you the world. Cyberpunk promised you a gigantic modern game with all these features, and it was a trash fire. This is ports of decades-old PS2 games that already had working PC versions.
That were fine.
And it's literally just tweak the controls a little bit, make it run a little better, maybe upscale some of the textures, maybe improve anti-aliasing, like the barest minimum of a re-release.
Yeah, I'm looking at the thread.
It bums me out because I would love to go back and play Vice City and San Andreas. And what do I do now? Emulate the PS2 version or go hack a fucking pirate copy of the delisted PC versions? Like, fuck.
We'll literally just go grab the old disc and pop it into an old console and play it. You know what I mean? Like that. I was literally saying when we brought this up maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was like, oh, you know, like, I haven't played all the GTA 3s, right? So Yeah, that'd be an interesting way to get around
Vice
to it.
City and San Andreas hold up great. Those games are incredible. I would love to go back and play them.
Jesus Christ.
And fucking hang out with Sweet and talk shit about Big Smoke and listen to his fucking ridiculous order and chase the train.
So there is like there are infinite side by sides of just like, here is what it looks like when you're rigged to a bike from the side view and your arms just completely turn into weird stretched out putty in order to fit onto the bike. There's a shot of a bikini girl in Vice City that just I don't even understand what I'm looking at. The faces all like, when you say it comes from the phone version, it suddenly makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
You know?
I have to say that you said it's always the textures. Not true. Whenever we talk about these remasters, there's one thing that's actually an even more consistent botch than the textures, and it's the lighting. So let's take Vice City, right? If you go back and look at Vice City, that game is always kind of pink or orange. Somehow there is always a sunset or a sunrise somewhere, and everything, even non-neon lights, somehow has the color palette of neon lights, because they want you to feel like this is the fucking 80s, like all the time. And you look at the remaster and it looks like bright ass middle of the day Los Angeles, San Francisco, harsh lighting. And it's like every single goddamn remaster always goes, well, we have better graphics, we have a more advanced engine now, let's make it look more realistic. Like, no. How about you go and look at what the fuck the intent was, which was to make a fucking game that looked like a goddamn 80s suit attached to a light source, and just make it more pink, more orange. Like the sky in San Andreas is a bright orange much of the time in the original game.
Yeah,
not
I
anymore.
remember seeing that. And now the fog is not even in these games, so you can see shit through the skybox that you shouldn't even be able to see. The answer to that question is very simple. It's because it's like playing through the original and trying to capture the intent of that scene is a lot of work that a studio that has been hired to just dump the whole thing over doesn't want to do. And like, you're asking for a creative analysis, which is not part of this porting process. The porting process is, we have this many thousand textures, we have to work at a macro level and just, you know, like hope that the original code still holds up while we replace assets and textures and change resolutions.
Even Halo 1, the Halo 1 anniversary, which was and is in some ways a gold standard of a re-release, in that they have a goddamn button to just switch between the two versions, horribly fucked it up, because the Halo 1 classic that is present in Anniversary is based off of the bad Gearbox PC port that doesn't have working bump mapping under lighting. And there's a bunch of effects missing. So when you switch back from the new fancy Halo Anniversary graphics to the old one, you go, wow, I don't remember it looking like shit like this. That's because it didn't. It didn't look like that.
I think the sign to point to for
they fixed that recently? That's cool.
Well, here's what's important to understand, right? I get the idea that outsourced company is going to just cut every corner possible to get the job done. Judgment is a remake of Judgment from 2019 to 2021. It is a remake of a game from fucking 24 months ago, and they still fucked it up. And it's because the porting process is not one that's attempting to keep the spirit of what you're describing.
You've seen what Judgment looks like. It looks like it's recorded on burnt film. Like, it's super saturated. Right? Now, Judgment 2 doesn't look like that, but that's fine, because Judgment 2 was not designed to look like that.
But it's just crazy that even something that recent can't get it right, because again, it's the outsourced port, you know? I mean, for what it's worth, every one of these is like remasters and remakes that just is absolute dog shit, definitive editions, etc. It just makes me go, damn, Demon Souls is a miracle. You know, fucking Blue Point, incredible.
Listen, I want to point out one last thing as part of this because you mentioned Blue Point. All right, remaking an old game or even remastering an old game to get everything right is so difficult. Sony had to do it twice with Shadow of the Colossus. And even then, there's stuff in the PS4 version that some people are not thrilled about. I think it's a great version of the game. I can handle a few minor differences.
We were talking about the fat officials having different faces.
Yeah, but like it took 2 attempts on this fucking game. And Shadow of the Colossus is like a simple game with like nothing in it. It's like wide open spaces and light boxes.
Couple of bosses, some lizards. Go. Yeah. It's kind of nuts. So this is absolutely cyberpunk level of how did they ship it? Why would they ship it? Like, why would you not just take a look at this and just immediately pump the brakes on the entire project?
It's really
deadlines must be respected. We don't give a fuck.
It's really sad to me because, like, a lot of the people who work at Rockstar are the same people who made those games, right? At least the Housers, right? And they are making a shitzillion, quadrillion dollars off of GTA Online. And that's fine, right? I don't personally care for it, but sure, right? But these are like legitimate classics that you would think the people that still there that worked on them would hold them near and dear to their hearts. And just people they just tossed it off to some shithouse port factory and gave them 2 weeks to make it and like, yeah, whatever. Right? Like just the lack of respect for your own stuff.
And GTA was a like video game industry defining series. It moved consoles like nothing else did in that time. It was the reference point for video games for all demographics at the time, even the ones that were too young to be playing it.
It's also a bummer for me because, like, I don't know about you, Woolie, I don't like any of the new Rockstar games.
I just haven't really tried them.
The PS2 Grand Theft Autos are great. I really I'm okay with 4. I strongly dislike GTA 5, and I tried really hard multiple times to like Red Dead Redemption 2. And it is, how do I put this? Because you haven't played them. It's an argument over, you're having an argument while playing the game with the director. You feel like an actor on a set with George Lucas. And you're like, well, what if I did this? And he goes, shut the fuck up. You're going to do it like this, or we're cutting the scene. And it's just nonstop, like, hey, go to the car to get your stuff. Well, what if I went over here? Mission failed.
Oh, it just gets more and more restrictive over time.
Like Red Dead is out of control. Red Dead 2 is out of control with, like, they're telling you, walk over to the horse, pick up your gun, go here, walk through this door. Then a cutscene plays. I'm like, if you're gonna force me to do all of that specifically, why even give me control at all?
Right. I saw someone wrote, you saddled the wrong horse. like, yeah, game over. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Yeah. I would assume that, like, with all of the newer games, that with infinite budget comes infinite polish. So I feel as if, like, there's no way they could be bad games because there's just so much, like, money to make sure that that's not that it doesn't turn out poorly.
Yeah, well, not this time.
Interesting. Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah. For the newer stuff.
Oh, you're talking about Red Dead 2.
Red Dead 2 and the GTA 6s and stuff like that.
You're completely right. Infinite polish. It is polished as all hell. It is absolutely as polished as all hell. But it feels like, and this is an example everyone can agree with. You know when you're playing a game and you beat a boss and it gives you back control, and then you walk 5 feet and a cutscene starts?
Mm.
and you go, why did this not just lead into the cutscene?
Right.
That is the feeling that I had the whole time I played Red Dead 2.
Okay.
Why
Okay.
why even pretend to let me play it?
You're on rails. Yeah. So this is like I don't this is the I don't know if the end result here will be more of a shitstorm than Cyberpunk, but so far Rockstar has only come out to say that they're pulling down the PC edition, the PC sales too.
Apparently it's back up as of this time.
Okay. So then the state of this is it's just too late. The whole thing is a fuck.
This is the version.
This is it.
Shut up.
Wow.
I would be surprised if this ever gets patched at all.
Wow. What would happen if you just ran GTA 3, the original PC version, on a modern computer? Like, could you just compatibility mode it and run it?
I don't think you even have to. I think it just works.
Like,
because people who have access to them now are just like, yeah, just play it.
What the fuck's to stop you, you know? And throw your own MP3 files in a folder, like I used to do, and just fucking hit that on the radio. Huh. Yeah, these faces are terrifying when you look at them side to side. There's here, let me find, there's a tweet here that has like the full list. And some of the faces look like, you know, when you see like Assassin's Creed style, like, uh-oh, I'm seeing the inside of the head texture.
Yeah.
Like, some of them are outside facing, but feel like you're looking at them backwards. I saw like the back of like the rear view mirror while like you have someone saddled behind you, like you're staring at one of a dude's face like the whole time. Just unbelievably horrifying and
oh yeah, that fucking thing.
The collage, you know.
The
number 9 on the jersey has the cutout texture of a 7 behind it.
The one that gets me by far the worst is the 2 Hispanic guys that have been turned into like children's characters, just the absolute shittiest heads I've ever seen on a character in my life. Like, it's astonishing.
Yeah.
It's massive downgrade in every way.
Well, I guess I will continue to not experience the entirety of GTA 3.